We're about 2 months, 3 months into this deployment. Nothing was going on. The Iraqis had basically given up. But we found out after about 3 or 4 months of being there that the real enemy had sort of dug in and recouped, and things started heating up pretty rapidly. We had 4 trucks. I could see the first truck up there. The lieutenant sort of slowed down. I saw my driver, who was driving him, drop his window to talk to the Iraqi policeman, and right as he dropped his window, they opened fire on us. We were in the worst firefight that we had ever been in, and everything just kind of went black. And I thought, okay, I'm dead. My name is Josh Dudley, and this is my Easter story. I had a rough childhood, like a lot of people do. My parents, got married early and had children young, and as a result of that, I was born, and that didn't really last long for them. So they split up. My mom took me and my half brother and half sister and moved us out of state. So I didn't really know my dad. That's where it got kind of rough, because my mom was, she used heavy drugs and alcohol, and she partied a lot, and I was only, around 7, 8, 9 years old. So it was hard for me. There wasn't a lot of motherly love or a lot of attention that we were getting, good attention. So I saw a lot of things that you shouldn't see at a young age. And I think there was kind of a sobering moment for my mother when her mother passed away. She was living with us at the time, and she was young, and she partied a lot too. But after that happened, my mom decided that she was going to send me to live with my father. Now I'm living with my father here, back in California, which, it provided me a stable environment away from the atmosphere of those negative things that I had dealt with as a kid. But he wasn't in a position to really raise me, drinking and some drug use and things like that. But it was at that point in time that he met the woman and her 2 kids who would become my stepfamily. And it was through her, an extended family member, that I would come to know Christ. I got a little older and I became a teenager. We went to youth group and all those things. We actually, as a result of us being in youth group, our parents would come to church and they would come to know Christ. But, I sort of dabbled in the things that teenagers dabble in. And because I had the childhood that I had, I think that it was easier for me to accept that I could just kind of do the things that other teenagers were doing. Just drinking and partying and things like that. Once I graduated high school, and it was kind of scary, like here I am now, I have to be a grown-up in the real world, so I joined the Army. I realized quickly what you do as a 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old in the Army. You work hard, but you drink and you party 2 or 3 times harder. I never lost my faith in God. I knew wholeheartedly what I was doing was wrong, and I did it. I did it heavily. After I had been in for a couple of years, my high school sweetheart moved out to live with me, and that sort of tamed me a little bit. At least it kept me out of the bars and clubs. At least if I was there, I was with her, But it wasn't right. Obviously, I didn't go back to where I should have been. I was in the Army for about 3 years when we finally got married, and 4 months after our marriage, I came down on orders for Iraq. So we went to Iraq, and this is one of those moments that I had where, it was kind of God showing me, hey, I'm still here. I remember seeing the 3 trucks ahead of me going through this serpentine, and I remember thinking, okay, I'm not going to go through the serpentine, I'm going to go straight through, I'm going to barrel through this barricade in this up-armored Humvee. And I looked over to tell my squad leader who was sitting in the passenger seat of my truck, and at that moment, everything just kind of went black. And I thought, okay, I'm dead. This is it. And I remember thinking right at that moment that somebody was gonna have to go to my stepmom and tell her that I had died in Iraq. And I remember praying and sort of just saying in that moment, God, please don't let me die. I don't want her to go through that. And at that same moment, I thought, wow, my wife, my here we are, just married. Somebody's gonna have to tell her the same thing. And sort of at that moment, I started to hear this ringing in my ears, and I realized I'm still here. And I could feel my hands on the steering wheel, and I sort of felt my body. I couldn't see anything, so I thought, okay, I'm here. Maybe I'm just blind. I can't see. And so I thought, well, I kind of remember how far away I am from the turn. We had to make a right-hand turn. I thought, I'm just gonna punch it. And so I hit the gas, and when I did, all the black smoke came up out of the truck, out through the turret. And I could see, and the truck was kind of mangled, and there was sort of, blood everywhere. And I thought, oh man, this is bad, but I'm alive. Thank you, God, I'm alive. We barrel through, and we get out of the kill zone, and we take it right over this bridge, and we're in a street where there are these rows of tall buildings, and we're taking some sniper fire. My truck started to die in the middle of the road. The two lead trucks are pretty far away from us. The third truck was my buddy Benitez, my brother. He decided that he wasn't going to leave us, so he stopped his truck and let us catch up to him, and he got behind me and kind of helped us out. But the truck was still dying nonetheless. And I looked over at my squad leader, and he said, listen, if this truck dies, we're gonna take this building right here to the right. And so I remember praying, God, please don't let this happen. And the truck started up again. And at the end of the day, we got out of there. The medevac helicopter came and took us to Baghdad. So we were in Baghdad for about 3 days, and I'm just sitting in this tent outside of the hospital in Baghdad on a cot for 3 days, just praying and kind of just begging God, please just let everybody be okay, and just I don't know, whatever I could do. And I just thought, like, why did this happen to me? I started to have this feeling of, why did this happen to me? Why is this happening to us? Not wanting to blame God, but I was upset. We were out of the hospital. My first sergeant came to pick us up, and I remember as he was walking up to me, he was looking at my face and looking at my head, and I remember telling him, hey, Top, I'm okay. I'm good. We're good. And he said, no, you don't understand. You shouldn't be here. He said, you shouldn't be alive. He said, no, listen, when we get back to camp, I want you to find your truck, and I want you to look at it. I want you to look where that RPG round entered your truck and where it exited. I thought, oh, okay, whatever. So anyways, we get back, and the next day I go over there, and I take, my teammates with me and my soldiers with me, and I said, let's go check out the truck. You could see how everything was kind of mangled, and the radios were blown up, and all this stuff. And I'm looking around, I see the entry point of where that projectile entered, and it entered above the window right by my head. But I'm looking to see where the exit point is, and there's no exit point. And I looked up, and the exit point from the projectile was straight above my head. So what happened was that round somehow came through, turned, and went right out of the ceiling. And I knew right in that moment that was God. I mean, there's no other explanation. There's no way that projectile moving that fast comes in, doesn't touch my head, does a complete right angle turn, and goes out through the steel roof. From that point on, we had Bible studies every night. We were praying for the rest of our time in Iraq, and we actually had a decent tour of duty after that. So you think that when I got back that I would still have that faith that I was brought back to, but I didn't. I was dealing with post-traumatic stress pretty bad, and so I was self-medicating and turning back to what I knew, which was drinking and partying. And my wife and I, we just had our first kid, and I didn't know how to cope with that. I had a lot of issues. So I eventually I got help. It was good. And so as the years went by, a couple more years went by, things got a little better. I joined a band with some family members, and I was playing in this, sort of blues rock band, and it was awesome. And now we own a house, and now we have another kid, and I'm a stay-at-home dad during the day, and everything felt right, and it felt great. And I thought, cool, here we are, we've made it, we've overcome all these hurdles. We were starting to talk to record labels. I thought it was going to be great. Here we are at this gig, this regular weekly thing that we do, and everything's sort of normal, and we're getting ready to play. I'm listening to some other bands, and the Holy Spirit spoke to me right there and said, hey, this is it. I don't want you to do music anymore. It brought me back to my childhood, because that's sort of the way God introduced himself to me in such a powerful way that I knew for a fact that that was God talking to me. So, I couldn't deny it, and I couldn't really run from it. So I just, I kind of just said, okay, God, if that's what you want, what am I supposed to do? Where do I go from here? I had this sort of plan that I was going to follow. And, I thought, if he didn't change it, then he was okay with it, but he changed it. And he told me, you need to get your house in order. There's some things that are coming that I need you to get prepared for, because this is what your purpose is. I have a purpose for you here. And so I said, okay, and that was about 3 years ago. And, I got my house in order, and I came back to church. My wife and I, we came back to church. We got our children in church, and we've been blessed for it. I mean, there's definitely no looking back. I thought that I had this great life worked out, but, now I realize that it really wasn't. And, I just thank God for bringing me back, and, just showing me that he had a different plan for me. My name is Josh Dudley, and Jesus changed my life.